Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey to Kingdom Hearts 3 Part 46. Today, we are here to discuss Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. I'm going to keep screwing up that title. Um,
You aren't the first, so don't worry.
yes, the oddball out of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. A mobile game and a cutscene theater, depending on which disc you have.
Well, technically, not even a mobile game, a handheld game. Truth be told,
Yeah, oh, that's right. That's coded. That's the mobile.
yeah,
Anyway,
believe me, that's the other really oddball in the series. We'll get to that.
yep. Well, I guess let's begin.
Also, obligatory. Let's hopefully it doesn't cut here. Sorry for this not being a commentary. YouTube system is not fancy on those kinds of errors, so apologies. Let's go.
All right. So, I guess let's start with what our initial experience with this game is.
Joel, I'll let you start off because I've probably got the weirdest one out of all of them.
All right. Well, mine is weird too because honestly, I don't really have much of experience with this game. Um, I never really looked into it that much for a long time. I would prefer Birth by Sleep. I didn't really care much for the organization at the time because I had the very pro Disney stance when it comes to this franchise. I've gotten over that now. I didn't think it'd have anything to do with much, and I guess I kind of regret that because looking like it might eventually. Um, and so I didn't know much. I didn't know about Xion or Xion, however you pronounce that. Um, and, I looked it up. Some of the manga is pretty good. So yeah, that's kind of my experience.
So, funny thing with me, the experience I have with 358 over 2 days, I'm not exactly sure when this happened, but the weird thing, and I don't know if a lot of people necessarily remember this, Coded, Birth by Sleep, and Days were announced at the same time.
You can definitely see some of the
Similarities.
not similarities, synergy between the three stories.
Yeah. And the three of them were announced and in development at pretty much the same time. Days was meant to be a Nintendo DS game, and that's how it was released. Birth by Sleep, a PSP game, and Coded started out as a mobile game and then went to the DS as Recoded.
And all of them
Um,
are side games, yet they're going to be very important to
well,
Kingdom
Birth
Hearts
by
3.
Sleep is apparently a main game in terms of square size, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, Days, this was right around the time I really started following development in terms of the Kingdom Hearts games. So it was kind of my venture into video game development and how that really worked. I never really did that with 2 because I was 6 at the time when 2 came out. So that was kind of a foreign concept to me. And it was basically my first experience kind of more or less figuring out what Nomura, and it would be a long, long journey to ever even beginning to grasp the things he was doing. I don't even know if he grasps it a lot of the time.
Probably. Oh, who knows with them.
But I remember Days in the development ahead. If you look at very early Days test footage and early Days gameplay shots, it's very different than what it ended up being. But for Days, it was weird for me because I wanted to be able to play as the organization because I loved the black coat attire. I loved those kinds of things. And while I love the gameplay and I love all those kinds of things, Days was always one I kind of never really had a strong opinion about, but not really a negative opinion about to begin with. I like Xion, and I like her, Roxas's, and Axel's relationship with each other. Now, to be fair, Final Mix helps me a lot with Roxas and Axel. It helps me like their relationship even more, but Days was kind of what really kicked that off for me. It really made their relationship organic. It made it feel real.
Have you ever
And
watched the cutscene library?
bits and pieces, yes.
Okay.
It made me really buy a lot of that stuff. Um, Now, in terms of the whole organization plot twist and Dream Drop Distance, that does not. It doesn't bother me as much with Days because they're kind of doing their own things with it. It's kind of there, but kind of not. And I think that's when Nomura finally came up with the idea, like, oh yeah, they have hearts.
Well, there are some hints in the cutscene library to what Dream Drop Distance is going to do.
Yeah, especially the end with Xion, and we'll talk about that much later. But Um, I'm trying to think of how to talk. Days is a really weird game structurally, Joel, and even just in narrative flow, it's a very, very weird game.
think I am cold as. Do you think Days either disproves or proves to people that you can tell a Kingdom Hearts story without Disney characters?
Yes, I think. I mean, Disney characters are in it, but it's not the main crux. It's the main. It Days is, without stating a better word, it is a side game. It is a side story dedicated to a very popular character and the lore and backstory about him. Because before 2, we knew nothing about Roxas, and even after 2, we still knew nothing about Roxas.
Yeah, essentially. I guess it can kind of prove that Kingdom Hearts doesn't need Disney characters.
It at least proved it could stand on its own at the very least. It was beginning to have its own identity even after 2. It was beginning to get into its own nature.
Union Cross kind of proves that as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
uh,
You know what my biggest reservation before I played Days was, Joel?
what?
I was worried they were going to try to make me sympathize with a lot of the organization, and thankfully they don't.
Ah, they make it worse.
No, they are pretty much a lot of them are. They're not good people. They aren't.
No. Um, you're right, Cole. This is a hard game to talk about because, like,
It's a very hard game to talk about because
I would say this: the
narratively.
library, the cutscene library, does not help at all. Actually,
No, and the thing with the gameplay is the thing you have to bear in mind, people,
mhm.
when it comes to Days is Days follows a mission story system. Some missions have story relevant content. Others are just side missions as your Days as an organization member. That's literally all they are. And some of the bigger missions have bigger story relevance. So
I wish
the
they.
real
I almost sort of wish, Cole, and this might just be me projecting my reimagining onto the series. I almost sort of wish that this story was Roxas discovering that he is Ventus and Sora at the same time.
See, the weird thing about that is with Ventus, yes, and Sora, yeah, except I'm glad they didn't delve too far deep into that because, believe me, Birth by Sleep is its own can of worms in that regard. And Ventus is brought up in this game, and it's impossible not to talk about him in some form or fashion because there are hints as well as a clear cutscene where we do see Ventus and is relevant to this story to a point.
So does that mean if Roxas entered the chamber, repose, he'd find himself just asleep on a chair?
I guess.
Like
I guess.
like Ventus hasn't disappeared or anything when Roxas is around, right? Like they
Yeah.
could technically be in the same place.
Yeah. I'm going to hold off on that because to even talk about that, we'd be branching into Three's territory, and we still know nothing about that yet. So the sad part is a lot of this game and a lot of its relevance is going to hinge on what Three does with it. Because now we know that a lot of Three is going to hinge on quite a bit of this game.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, yes, that's the problem with making this like a mobile. Um,
Well, besides, well,
handheld like
handheld.
handheld like, and especially the cutscene library does not hold my attention. It's just Roxas, Xion, Axel eating ice cream, emotions. Then
I kind of wish they had just ported a version of the game to the remix, you know?
there's actually some weird animation errors too. Like there's one scene where you see Xion without her hood, and then her hood back on, and it's off again.
Yeah, it's quite that's meant to. The weird thing is, from what that sounds like a game to cutscene inconsistency because that's a thing in Days, but there's a gameplay reason for that. I think not necessarily story. Then actually, now that we're on that subject, let's go ahead and touch on Xion. Why don't we? Because I feel like she's the big reason I think most anyone gives a shit about this game.
I like her. I think her voice actress is a little but I like her.
I agree. I like Xion too. I do quite like her. The weird thing is, in Days, when I listen to her, I'm like, it sounds like her voice actress is almost unsure of herself. Not even in character, almost as like she doesn't really know what she's supposed to do with her.
I like Xion, but I feel like there's something missing.
I do
But
too. Like, it almost feels like Nomura doesn't necessarily know what to do with her.
she is kind of just a random Sora clone.
Yeah, and it's kind of feeling that way up until 3. Like, I don't know why we're still hinging on Xion. I like her. I don't really understand bringing her back other than popularity. I don't know what story-wise means bringing her back.
You know what she feels like, Cole? She feels like that OC in a very bad fanfic.
Yeah.
And not to describe, not to deride OCs. I mean, Sora's an OC, Rox is an OC. They are.
And let me be clear. We're not saying Xion is bad. It's just not. I don't think she's as good as she could be.
She felt like a really bad self-insert character.
Yeah. It
And I
felt
like
like,
those for like personal reasons, where like I don't know if I could take them seriously in a story that takes itself seriously.
especially when it feels like Nomura really, really hinges on doing trio of characters. He really hinges on that kind of
I
formula.
mean, I love
He does.
Trio. Don't get me wrong, I
I do
love
too, but the problem is he doesn't necessarily know when to break away from it.
like shout out to V Griff if he's listening, or his big pet theory, and one I've always liked, is sort of like, and I wish they went with it, but I don't think they I don't think this is really what they were planning. I really don't, but like I wish there was a connection more with Vanitas because of the black hair, because Xion is Kyrie and Sora.
Or you know what? I would have at the very least have connected her more with Kyrie. I would have gone more that route because I feel like at the very least Nomura would have at least been trying to do a bit more with Kyrie's ideas more than character because Kyrie really at that point had none. At the very least, it would have given him more something to do with her. Now, to be fair, I like where she ends up, and I like what she does and how she gets Roxas from where he is to where we know him. And by the way, I think her death. As much as we've been bashing her, I love her death scene. I think that's one of the most heartbreaking moments in Kingdom Hearts.
Star Wars.
I think it's one of the most. I think it's one of the genuinely most heartbreaking moments.
Oh yeah, that's definitely
And
sad.
part of the thing too is Yoko Shimomura goes all out on that soundtrack when Xion dies. Her sound, the translation for her that song, it's a I think either Italian or Spanish song, but it translates to music for the sadness of Xion, and it's heartbreaking as hell.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. I still kind of like the whole. I still think this story would have worked better if it connected more with Birth by Sleep in some way.
I do too.
Like it
Um,
was Roxas discovering Ventus, maybe throwing Vanitas there as like a little.
I wouldn't even go that far. I would at least
I would.
not even discovering Ventus, but more aspects of Ventus. I wouldn't have him go all out on that because I feel like if you do all none, that's branching more story points for later. But even then, we're just getting into rewrite territory here because.
Well, I gotta think of something for late. I mean, I'm getting closer to that story goal, so I gotta
Yeah, I
think
know, but I
about.
mean for the purpose of this discussion.
Right. But I do. I see. See, that's another reason why I always had a strange experience with Days. I felt like, okay, now we're adding a random character who, I mean, more power to the female characters in Kingdom Hearts because Lord knows
I
we need it. But
Now the thing is too, and I fully agree with that. The problem is, if you're going to do female characters, do female characters.
and Xion just feels like this weird insert who, and this is kind of the problem with retconning, who doesn't matter. And that
Yeah.
sounds horrible.
And the problem is 3's really, really trying hard to make her matter.
No, it started in Dream Drop Distance.
Dream Drop Distance starts, but 3's apparently trying to go a little further with it.
I'm not quite sure how yet because
I don't know either.
she's on the box art.
At the very least, I get where they're coming from with Roxas. I don't get where they're coming from with Xion.
I think it's Nomura wanting to do the trio thing, like you said, sort of like you have Sora, Riku, Kairi, Axel, Roxas, Xion, Terra, Aqua, Zen, heck, even Mickey, Donald, and Goofy if you want to get really meta with it.
Yeah, and then the weird thing, but Nominate's, and then you have Nominate, and oddly enough, Nominate's really non-existent in this game.
Unless you watch the library cutscene where she actually does have a few appearances.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like she would have a stronger presence in this game somehow.
And you know what's weird? why not just make Naminé the Kyrie?
I thought that
I
too.
always
I
felt
mean, I
weird
guess
that
you don't want to contradict the whole the chain of memories thing, but I feel like that might have been a smarter option. Maybe Axel and Roxas are trying to keep her hidden. I guess. I mean, technically, Axel did free her in chain of memories,
it ended too.
so I don't. So it wouldn't be without the realm of possibility because Namine, I feel like, is the stronger character.
Well, not only that, I feel like two really makes Roxas and Naminé the Sora and Kyrie of that game,
Yeah,
and then
and then that's
Xion kind of comes along as sort of this weird, almost like I don't want to say something crude. It's like the friend you liked, but then you found your
she's the fodder. She's the fodder.
she's the fodder. She's like the you thought and
This
like I don't
Let
know.
me sum it up for you, Joel. Xion exists in this game literally to be forgotten and to advance the story. She is a plot device to be forgotten.
And that can work in a lot of ways. It's sort of a meta thing. Like they even say she's a puppet.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. Nomura tries to Final Fantasy VII it, but the thing is, I don't even really feel like he wants to go all out with it because he doesn't. Because I think he even realizes how creepy that could get, but he doesn't want to go full on creep factor because he still wants us to appeal to children.
See, I would have gone full on creep factor. Like I would have just like especially with my Vanitas thing, it's like the guy who wants the villain in my story who wants Vanitas out. He can like, okay, I'm gonna put Vanitas in this person. That sounds horrible, by the way. And it's like, mess up Organization 13's plan, and then once it's time, ooh, I'm gonna have fun with this. Like poor Xion, like she's just the tragic character. Uh
Yeah. Now, to be fair, her death is tragic, and it is sad that she and Roxas are pitted against each other in a lot of ways in order for Sora to come back. That is a really screwed up idea in of itself.
which again, why I like Vigor's idea about the Vanitas thing, because again, the immortal enemies.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, even in the game, it's very when you think about it, that's what they're going for. But the game isn't explicit about it. It's kind of this unsaid kind of thing.
What do you mean?
Meaning, it's not even really. We aren't really sure why this has to be the case. Like, and that's another thing. Xemnas really does not have a hands-on approach in this story.
Zevin has never had the hands-on approach and even in two, he's sort of like, we're just gonna let Sora do whatever he wants, and if
And
something
even
really bad happens, we might interfere. But we're just gonna watch and just be all emo.
and the sad part here is Xemnas is even less relevant in this game.
I mean, he gives orders. He just says, "Okay, go here, fight Heartless, come back. Let's just build up Kingdom Hearts."
Yeah, but the sad thing is, if you're going to play the whole Ventus ordeal, I'm surprised you aren't doing more stuff with Terra. Why we're not doing more stuff with the Chamber of Repose? Why we're not hinting more stuff, seeding more things? That way Nomura can branch off later on.
It's funny how I
Xemnas,
said earlier that I thought Days was a pretty strong story, and look at us tear it apart.
I think the thing we have to say, Joel, is we did that with Birth by Sleep. Story in the sense that we buy the character interactions. We, at the very least, buy that. I buy Axel and Roxas's relationship.
I actually, I'm going to say this. I actually do buy all three of them as a trio. I can
Me too.
easily see
I do
them
buy
as
that.
the
And I
Sora,
think that's when Xion works the best.
Riku, and Kyrie of the group. Which, again, I don't want to go into my version, but I do like using it as sort of like an alternative, where it's sort of like I would have had it be just Sora, Axel, and Xion, Roxas, Axel, and Xion. Just go to worlds, maybe do the whole Ventus discovery thing, or at least worlds that were tied to Ventus in
And
the
why not
past.
do more of a party system thing where they actually it's their adventures through the world, like Roxas and it was wacky adventures with Roxas and with Axel and Xion. Like I don't know why that wasn't an idea. It would have made the adventure aspect a bit more fun, and you could do bigger drama stuff in the sense of the trio right there. That would have been an easy takeaway.
Tie it in with Ventus, tie it in with Sora, like
Tie it in with Terra, tie it in with all those kinds of things. Do the parallels. Come on, people.
yeah, I've had ideas for like Roxas goes to a world and somebody from 50 years ago, because the timelines are kind of weird in my universe. So like Roxas could have gone to a world and come back, but it was 50 years later, and the person's like, oh my gosh, I recognize you. You're Ventus, and it's like, who's Ventus? And then they go to another world, and it's like, oh, you reminded me of an old
And you know what's
friend
funny,
of
Joel?
mine, but I don't
You're
remember.
kind of doing a weird riff, but kind of an interesting parallel with the whole Sora being called Roxas.
Yeah, kind of, and that kind of works too. Like, I've always been curious I feel again, which is why I feel like you should have done this because, like, especially because you're making the game at the same time. Like, people are gonna if people see Roxas's face, do they recognize? Hey, I remember you. You were that kid, that blonde kid who, you know, Cole.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still
Okay,
here.
you scared me. Like, just if Roxas goes back to the dwarves, did the dwarves recognize him as like you beat us up in the mines? Dopey's like,
Or does Dopey? Or do they look and he says you stole Dopey's diamonds
you still his meth.
and his income?
His meth, dude. I need my blow. There's a reason Dopey's the way he is, people. Let's not
Yeah.
cut spade to spade
And
here.
Ventus was his income, okay? So him coming back would probably screw Dopey up even more. He'd need a bit more. Anyway, let's get off that. We're not.
Actually,
Okay, anyway.
you know what's weird, Cole? You know what's really weird? Roxas in the game version goes to Neverland. This is actually the first time we
Yeah.
see Neverland.
It's the first time we see actual Neverland.
Fun fact, they actually show Pete as well, and Pete's kind of
Yeah.
doing his thing with the
I think they
Heartless.
show Captain Hook as well.
I don't know if he met Captain Hook. Did Ventus meet Captain Hook?
Oh, then I'm not sure, but I think you see Captain Hook in Day. So Hook is still alive and out there somewhere, I think.
And and they do things with Pete, but they don't really do anything interesting with Pete. It's sort of like, I'm Pete. I'm just collecting Heartless for reasons.
So off that subject, let's talk about Axel because Axel he's probably the second most important character in this game.
Right. I think we talked about Roxas too, but I feel like we kind of moved in with Xion a little bit.
I think the thing is we'll move into Roxas because Axel and him are very very much intertwined.
So what I like about the cutscene library of Axel is that I really like that they do hint heavily on the whole his relationship with
Isa
Isa.
or Syax, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely imply that heavily.
And the funny thing is, in the game version, that's still implied. That's the first time actually we hear Axel's real human name.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the DS game is when we first hear his real name. We hear him Sykes call him Lee.
So it's funny they set up that, but they don't do anything with Roxas, so that's just weird.
Yeah.
It's Oh, sorry, I just thought of this, Cole, because of the of the whole adventure thing. I've actually thought about this. You know what world would have been really good, which is in the game, but they don't do much with it.
What?
Beauty and the Beast. And here's why. Have Roxas, Xion, and Axel, or we're probably going to be more Xion and Axel. I'm not Xion and Roxas. Interact with the servants, with Lumiere.
Yeah.
And then here you go. Here's the best thing, because they all want to be human again.
Yeah.
Think about that. When we're
now that you mention it, that is a
that song, which will be in my fanfic, by the way.
That's a really now that you mention, yeah, that's a really big missed opportunity.
Like I almost thought of it like, what if Roxas and Xion are there when the servants are cleaning up the castle and they can sing the Human Again song?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, hey, we want to be human again too. Then you can kind of do the Roxas Sora thing where he kind of gets involved.
Yeah. That's really a huge miss, especially for Axel, because that'd be really interesting to do back on subject with him, because I love what's done with him. I wish we saw him interact with Roxas gameplay-wise a bit more. We saw him in his day-to-day life a bit more.
Right. I do love Axel, because it's like, he does get stuck with the icky jobs, but I like it because you can tell he doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah, you can tell he is a good person at heart. He
does bad things, but
he does bad things, but it's in a lot of ways, and a lot of it is for Roxas.
Yeah, he is the Riku of that trio.
Yeah, he wants Roxas back, and honestly, I feel more for him here than I did for Riku in 1, because in the end, we know where it's going to lead them.
Well, I think for one thing, I think you're supposed to. I always felt Riku was just outright selfish. Like,
yeah. And the funny thing is in two, Axel finally lets go of that and gives up his life in order to save Sora.
Do you wish Astral had stayed dead?
I like what they're doing with him in three, so I'll be interested to see where they go. I mean, you could have done it either way. I like where they're going with him. And actually, no, I wish that actually no, I don't think I wouldn't have been glad because there's still the whole thing with Isa and Lee that I would have at some point had to have seen resolved at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting. He also does stuff for Lee. I mean, Isa. He's Lee. Cause like he there's a scene where it's like I do all the icky jobs and you just go straight to the top
What's weird too is that
by taking out Marluxia and the traders.
and the weird thing is even in Days he and Sayx don't really interact that much, and all of a sudden when Distance rolls around, then he starts really being concerned about Isa, almost as if to say there was something that happened before all the crap went down that wasn't resolved. So I would have had to have seen that resolved at some point.
What do you mean?
I mean, at some point, I'm like, what the hell are we? What the hell was dealing with this and alluding to this so long if we weren't going to do anything with it?
I mean, I definitely think in three they're gonna be a fight.
That's what I mean. We're definitely going to see a payoff, but that's why I would not have wanted Axel to stay dead regardless.
That's true. No, that's pretty much true of that.
But the
Yeah,
thing is, too, thinking about how Roxas and Axel interact with each other, and especially at the beginning of the game, where Roxas is still kind of trying to form words, still trying to come into his own, try to be able to speak, learn about the world. Seeing him and Axel interact, it's sweet in a way. It's adorable.
I like it. I always find it funny. Like you have like the organization with all these tall grown ups and like you got these two kids like sitting in the big chairs. Um, like you taking out kids now. It's kind of weird.
And then, of course, we got the final mix version where we at least get to see Roxas and Axel at least say their goodbyes to each other, which makes Days a lot more impactful. Because remember back then, Joel, when Days came out, a lot of Americans didn't have access to Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix.
Yeah, Final Mix really helps with the story.
Yeah, it especially helps the payoff to Days and to 2. Because if you wanted Final Mix back then, you would have had to have imported a PS2, a Japanese PS2, and the game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I've seen cutscenes of like I remember back when I watched the cutscenes for Final Mix in the day. Like I had no idea what was going on. Why didn't
Yeah, I didn't either. And finally, now that I have translation, I'm like, oh, this is really good. Why wasn't this in the game?
A lot of things in Final Mix are better. But back to point. It's tragic in a way, Days, because of like these are characters who at the end of the day kind of know they need to die,
Yeah.
essentially, to get things back the way they were.
And the sad part is that's part of the reason I liked the nobody idea so much. And now with the heart idea thrown in there, I don't know how that works at all. That's another thing. But I like that idea because they all know they will eventually pass and they will die if they don't subscribe to this organization's kind of shady deals. They really have no other way.
Do you think there are nobodies out there who aren't organization members? Like
I
human
imagine
nobodies?
there probably are.
That'd be
And then
fascinating.
again, if you talk about the whole thing with the Masters of Masters, but that's a theory for another time. So probably, I wouldn't put it past it. There probably are.
Now, if you don't mind, I want to wait on Roxas because let's see him towards the end because he's the main character. And
Yeah.
let's talk about a character who goes into the whole they need to die aspect, and that's Riku because he is like I love Riku here, like because what I like about Riku is like he knows Xion, Roxas kind of need to die,
But I
but
also
he
like
doesn't
how
want to
he
kill them. He doesn't want them to.
exactly.
He wants them to live. I think he likes Xion. I think he likes Roxas.
Yeah, I think he actually legitimately likes Xion because the interactions with the two of them, he says, "So you're not going to kill me?" And he says, "Nah, but I think I'm just sad." And
Yeah.
seeing him willingly admit that to her is kind of tragic considering where Riku's been. I'm like, damn, that really does suck.
There are some things I question, like why is Riku not with the king? Why did they split?
Well,
Uh,
actually, funny you bring that up, Joel, because the one thing Nomura has constantly said, there were stories after 2 he had always wanted to do, and all of them we have got, but the one story he said he wanted to do that had something to it that was never told was the time with the king and Riku after Chain of Memories, in between that and 2.
probably glad they never did it because I just felt it would be another filler game.
Yeah, but
Um,
that is the one thing he said that there was a story there that he always wanted to do, and that's the one we never got.
I'm curious if he'll ever do it. I doubt it now.
I doubt it. We're too far in. I doubt it'd be relevant at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I already got a
Well, I
story.
know you because you're already at the point, but where we're at now, I don't know what it would have on the impact in terms of free and going forward.
Right. Ironically, I do follow the Nomura trope. Actually, I realize I follow the Nomura trope quite a bit because I'm always pairing people up in trios. Like, Kairi has her own trio, Riku's gonna get his own trio. You got the Sora, Donald, and Goofy trio, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Anywho, but back to Riku. Um, it is kind of sad. It's kind of weird because I've been so into my little version. Like, oh yeah, Riku's alone in this game. He doesn't have anybody except Diz and he's company.
And the sad part is the
And
people he ends up interacting with and forming a relationship with are the people he knows aren't going to stay and can't stay if he wants the one he really cares about to come back.
I always like to ship. If I have to ship Xion with anybody, I think I like shipping her with Riku more
I
than
do too. I
Roxas.
think honestly, I think she works better with Riku.
I've always been a big fan of the Riku Xion ship. Quite a bit.
And honestly, going forward, if you were to bring Xion back, which they probably are, I would honestly go forward with that a bit more because I feel like there's something to do there.
Cause she ain't getting Kyrie, that's for sure.
He ain't getting Kyrie.
Although I still think he might have a chance with Sora.
No, he ain't getting Sora either. I can tell you that.
Sadly.
No,
Uh,
I know where you're coming from. No, I get where you're coming from, Joel. No, he won't get Sora either. There's no chance in hell in that happening.
um,
But Xion, that's fair game. And honestly, I
Although
would
it's kind
kind
of freaky, cause like, oh, you couldn't get the original. I'll go with the clone. I'll get the clone.
he gets the clone of both of them.
Best of both worlds.
Oh, I didn't realize how screwed up that was.
um, but anyway, you're gonna make a point.
But I would like to see where that goes because I feel like you could do some interesting stuff with Xion and him going forward.
Would you want to see Xion and Riku confront each other if Xion is a Nort?
It would be interesting.
That's how I would go.
I would too, especially now that now that's becoming apparent. Aqua probably isn't, but that's a topic for another time. Anyway,
Also, how yellow are Zemus's eyes? I tried to look at the eyes. Braig's eyes are very yellow.
I don't know.
Zemus has
I
a
think
bit
I
like
think it's the
darker.
contrast with his skin.
Maybe Zemus has a very
It's
dark.
probably a coloring error, but I imagine that's the logic they probably use.
You know what's weird? When Terra Nord is Xehanort's apprentice, his eyes are brown,
Yeah,
but Braig's are full on yellow.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no, that
they're orange. They're orange. Two's lighting doesn't help with that whole debacle, but
no,
the
no, no, no.
re-releases have helped that.
I've seen watched the cutscenes. They are yellow.
Which you mean of who?
The secret endings, Birth by Sleep.
Which one are we talking?
The one with Braig and Terra Nord in the lab coat walking down the hall.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, they're yellow. I thought you meant they were brown.
No, Braig's eyes are yellow. Terra's are brown.
Brownish yellow.
No, full on brown, and they get a close up of those eyes.
Hang on, let me look.
Secret ending, Birth by Sleep. I will find it.
Hang on, I got it.
Make sure it's the final mix version.
I know. Don't. They're brownish orange, not quite yellow, but brownish orange.
But not compared to Braig's, who are like full on.
No, I think that might be a stylistic choice to say that he's more in on the whole Xehanort thing and the fact that Terra right now doesn't really know about that right now because, as we know right now, he doesn't really have memories.
The eyes things always bothers me because I'm like, are those Xehanort's natural eyes or like It's out of the
Well,
eyes of
that's the
darkness.
problem with talking about that in general. I think part of it is darkness, but the other thing is there's bear in mind, people, there's still a lot about Xehanort we don't know anything about his backstory, barely, and three's going to give us that.
They actually that's why I hope it's. I really want Ericus to be like the playable character. Is like that
Me
way,
too.
like we can learn about the both of them if they had a genuine friendship, like as a brotherhood kind of a thing.
But
But
anyway,
speaking of eyes, maybe we should go on to if you have more to say about Riku.
nah.
We go to Zemnis. Let's talk about good old Lord Zemnis.
The sad thing, you would think I'd have a lot to say on Zen this year, and I don't.
It's one of those things where it's like in hindsight again, I wish Zemnis was more Terra for a
I
lot
did
of
too.
like I don't know if I would want to necessarily have Terra's memories, although I would be curious how that necessarily
Or
works.
at least have some of his sensibilities, and his time with Xehanort kind of corrupted that side of him, but he's still kind of Terra.
Would you if we play backseat rider for a second, would you have wanted Zemnis to kind of word this correctly? Take it with a grain of salt because you're gonna it's the way it's executed at the end of the day, not necessarily conceptually. Have a closeness with Roxas because of the Ventus connection. Not in like a
Uh,
friendly way, obviously, but it's
I
like
mean, yes, considering what Zemnis talks about him at the end of the game when he wants him retrieved, it's weird that we don't see him and Roxas interact at all, actually. We very rarely see he and Roxas interact,
I feel like he would want him closer to them.
which is really strange.
Especially if just like even if he doesn't remember he's Terra, I feel like the Terra in him would sense the Ventus and like
You know
that
what's weird, Joel?
brotherliness that they always claim because Ventus loves Terra.
You know what the weird thing about this, Joel?
What?
Our biggest issue with Birth by Sleep is that structurally it's really, really wonky, really, really clunky. But with Days, it's that a lot of the threads just are never picked up and aren't even put together.
Which is funny because they were developing these three games at the same time. You'd think there'd be more synergy.
Yeah.
Like because Coded, I'm gonna skip ahead to Coded for a little bit. We'll get back to it. When we talk about Coded. Coded at least picks up on the threads of Burst by Sleep because it introduces that stuff to Sora now, or at least
Yeah.
Data Sora, who then is gonna tell regular Sora.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's all that stuff about the Chamber of Repose and getting rid of Marluxia, which Union Cross is now weird.
Yeah, and honestly, there's not even much to talk about Marluxia because he's in like 2 or 3 scenes.
That's the other thing. They don't really develop the other organization members that much.
No, Larxene, Zexian, Lexius, Vexen, and Marluxia especially, nothing is done with them. Barely.
It's mostly Sykes.
The sad part is that we're going to get more. Sad part is we're going to get more stuff with Zex and or Ienzo in 3.
Essentially, yeah. And it's
And
fun.
and the thing is, I don't even want to talk about Larxene right now. She's a bitch here. That's what she is.
Hey, well, back to Days and Zemnis. It's like Sykes talks about all the stuff about the chamber and the castle, and it's like, what's going on? Like, what is he? What like? And there's like other agendas happening. Like, what other agendas? It seems like you just have one agenda. Just build up your Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. And
Are they like? Is he talking about the 13 and the Keyblade and?
I guess is he have more thoughts about Larxene and Marluxia based on Union Cross? Maybe, kind of.
Is Zemnis like? I don't know if Zemnis has his own goals here. Like,
That's the other thing. I'm trying to figure out what is known and what's not because that's why I don't want to talk about Larxene because character-wise, she's a jerk. That's what she is. She's an absolute jerk.
I wouldn't think too ahead, Cole. I mean, I don't think the more we're thinking that far ahead.
Well, that's what I mean. Like I said, I can't really. That's what she is in this game, you know.
Right, I'm not even just talking about Larxene. I'm just talking about what Zemnis is thinking.
Well, that too, but I'm like, what does he know? What things does Zemnis know? What is in his plan, and what is he privy to, and what is he not privy to? That's what this game really drops the ball on. Even distance, I don't know what Zemnis is in on at all.
Well, in terms of distance, he's just there in North Pond. There's nothing else.
You know what's sad, Joel?
What?
Even before Distance came out, even maybe in the development days, Nomura dropped a hint that maybe Zemnis could use a Keyblade, but just chooses not to. And I'm like, why? How could you ever make that work?
I mean, maybe it's. I mean, I would make it work in the sense that maybe it's the part of Terra that feels shame.
Not even. I, I, but if the thing is, if that's the case, then that would mean he would probably have the no name Keyblade, which I guess could make sense. But I'm like, I don't know what Nomura's going for in terms of an idea like that. Even the ideas Nomura was talking about, I'm like, I don't know what you planned to do with them.
To be fair, if it's not set in the game, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Like, the
unless
more
it's
can say
probably.
things like, well, Zephyr doesn't want to use a Keyblade, but he chooses not to. Like, well, okay, but if that isn't ever in the game. Oh, sorry, here's the phone. Hang on. Let me mute for a second.
I would imagine I imagine that's something Nomura's going to put in 3 because Nomura was pretty gun ho about that for a long time.
True, but like things can change, I suppose.
Yeah, but I assume I'm pretty sure they'll probably do that for 3. I imagine we'll get a Keyblade battle with someone with Xemnas and another person. I don't know why you would ever do that.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it's a lot of those ideas I'm like, I don't understand what it adds. I don't know why you would ever do that. Because that's the thing here. The reason I bring up Nomura's ideas to begin with is I'm trying to get an idea of what it was he was going for here. And the game in general, even especially Xemnas' plot line. I try everywhere I can to get an idea of what the hell he was in on to begin with, or what his plan was. What his plan with the Chamber of Repose was, how that connected to the 13.
How much do you think this was part of the whole Square just wanted more Kingdom Hearts games but didn't want to do 3 just yet, so we guys pump the money, more come up with something. It's like, game where I play Organization 13.
Yeah.
Like, let's face it, that's a cool idea, but you put it on a platform game. Like, wouldn't this be you should make this a mainstay.
I guess I think a good chunk of that, Joel. And here's another thing to keep in mind, people.
How much is this Square's fault? What I'm trying to say here.
Well, I know that, and I'm going to talk about that in a sec. The thing to keep in mind with Days, Code, and Mirth by Sleep, those 3 games were not developed by the same team as the ones who did 1 and 2.
Which is why 3 probably looking better.
The people who developed this was a different studio altogether, and again, because I always bring this up, that team that developed 1 and 2 went on to work on Versus 13.
And that didn't work out so well, so now we're...
No, and that put it in development turmoil for 10 years. So they basically twiddled the thumbs, and they were gone for a game that never really came into fruition.
Thankfully, it looked like 3 teams pretty much...
Well, that too, and they also got people back from that team that are working on it.
Thank heavens.
Yeah, because the Osaka team was responsible for most of the games up until now. Then the team from the ones that was developing 13 or 15 finally jumped back on with 3.
So what we're trying to say is that while Nomura's ideas aren't best executed, I feel like we can't completely put him in the wrong.
No, I imagine, especially all the crap that's come out with Square Enix recently, I thinking back, a lot of this is probably marketing PR decisions.
I mean, it feels like it. I mean...
And Joel, let's you and I be clear for a minute. 2 came out at a time... You and I both, I love 2, and a lot of people love 2. The problem is, even for 2, it was still a relatively niche thing. It was a really kind of indie thing. It wasn't...
I wouldn't say that, Cole. There were some TV spots on the Disney Channel, I remember.
Well, I know that, but I mean not compared to, like, today. And it was also at a time where gaming... It was pre-internet and pre-that kind of fan explosion. It was still when gaming was in a really weird place, and still where Kingdom Hearts was even still at a kind of a weird place.
I'd say I can't agree with you completely that it was niche, because I remember Kingdom Hearts for a time being kind of popular. Popular enough to have commercials on the Disney Channel.
Well, even certain niche things can be popular, but I mean not as popular as it would eventually become. And let's face it, Joel, the 3 games going forward didn't help with that.
No, this was definitely the decline of the Kingdom Hearts franchise.
Especially in that, and to be honest, that probably got it close to distance. Probably almost made it almost indie to the point where almost no one really gave a crap about it. Days was Days was kind of the point where people were like, okay. I'll agree that 2 was definitely popular, but definitely not as popular as titles at around that time. And that you really can't disagree with. I mean, a lot of games around then were doing really gangbusters before Kingdom Hearts was really making the money it is now.
So yeah, it's sort of like you wonder how much is.
Joel, I'm sorry, I have to bring this up to illustrate up the point. We have to remember Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 came out around the time as Final Fantasy X and 10 too. Games that are considered some of the best-selling and best games of all time, or at least tens in terms of tens. So, and Kingdom Hearts, from what I understand, doesn't even come close to making those kinds of numbers. So I'm like, Kingdom Hearts was still finding its identity. It was getting its identity with 2, and then these games kind of.
I'd argue they give it an identity because Kingdom Hearts 3, because like you start seeing the same things. Like you got the Union
Yeah.
Cross, you got the thing. Like I do think this is Nomura's story. I do think that I would be curious to have seen if Kingdom Hearts 3 had just come out and like how much of Master Xehanort and the whole, because they were setting that up in 2.
Oh yeah.
And the 13 Darknesses thing, but how much of it just got told in a really spaced out kind of way.
Yeah, and I'll agree. They were making their identity, and with 2, it got one, and then the identity it went with for the rest of the games, I think you and I can agree, is hit or miss.
I think here's something I wanted to talk about, Cole, and I'm going to do my ramble on it, but this is actually the perfect place to do it. Franchises evolve. We can all agree with that.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, we're seeing this kind of with Harry Potter right now. I'm going to use Harry Potter as an example because I always think Kingdom Hearts and Harry Potter a lot. You see this a little bit with Star Wars too, where Harry Potter started out as essentially the young wizard go to Wizard World. There's some evil lord guy, but it's all about whimsy and the growing up and stuff like that. But as it went on and on and on, and now we're getting to Crimes of Grindelwald, which don't ever see, Cole, because I don't want your view of the Harry Potter universe to be tainted. It's now
Did you see it?
No. Lo saw it. She liked it. I think she thought it was okay. A lot of people do not think it's okay. It's terrible. Like worse than the Star Wars prequels, even though I like Star Wars prequels. But that, I'm agreeing.
I've heard people say it kind of. I've heard said that it kind of does a twist on an older character, from what I've heard.
Does that, but it's like it gets really. It's too into itself. It's like it's no longer about the kids growing up, going to wizard school. It's like now this evil lord guy before Voldemort, because it's technically a prequel, so it's in the past, and like all this politics and the Muggles versus wizards and bloodlines and the ancient prophecies and whatnot. And Harry Potter kind of get into that too around 5, but it still kind of kept that whole we're kids in wizard school, but then it started going like the prophecies and the chosen one. And I think it got started eating into itself a little bit. Cole?
I'm here.
Okay, cool. You scared me. Like, it started eating into itself a little bit. Like, became a little too. I don't want to sound like I'm coming off of like anti-lore stuff like that. Like, I love lore. Don't get me wrong. I love lore.
Well, no, not at all. And to be fair, I think Star Wars, at least at points, has done this well.
It does it well. I think. Well, here's the weird thing about Star Wars, and I want to it's like it eats into itself. The whole eats into itself thing. Like Star Wars is an amalgamation of a bunch of different things smushed together and creates its own identity because of it. However, the time goes on, and again, franchises do need to evolve, and sometimes it does it well, sometimes it doesn't. It starts to eat on itself a little too much, where it's like becomes too self-aware,
self-indulgent
in a way. I don't want to say Star Wars does it too badly. I think honestly, Star Wars, I think it's done it actually balanced itself really well. Even the prequels, I think.
And it's gotten better at that, especially as the new movies have gone on.
Exactly, and I think this is more Harry Potter's problem right now, where it's getting a little too self-indulgent.
And actually, Joel, this is a good point. This is a topic you and I brought up before. The thing that Star Wars has above Kingdom Hearts and Harry Potter, especially to a larger degree, new blood came on. New blood came in and brought fresh ideas into this universe and helped it to evolve. Because one of the biggest things I've heard about the Crimes of Grindelwald.
Oh yeah, J.K. Rowling has way too much
J.K. Rowling's script.
She wanted to write a novel. let's call a spade here. She wanted to write a
Yeah.
book, and it's like right now I'm afraid to say J.K. Rowling sort of fallen into the whole George Lucas trap of like someone who has way too much control of his franchise for his own good. Um, Although strangely, I think the prequels did this better than Crimes of Grindelwald, but um, I don't want to get too much into that. But I feel like Kingdom Hearts at times, I think Union Cross is a bit of this. I think Dream Drop Distance has a bit of this.
Dream Drive has done a bit of this. It is that.
It's too self indulgent. It's no longer this cute. Let's cross over Disney and Final Fantasy and have like these three little kitties run around and grow up and learn little life lessons. It's now we are the chosen lights of the darkness of the thingies and the princesses and the blah, 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 and the
And I
ancient
think
times of Glop and Glop and
And I think the big issue with that, Joel, is that when it started, it didn't know where to stop and how to balance it.
and I'm not. And again, franchise need to evolve. Kingdom Hearts need to evolve. Star Wars need to
Mm-hmm.
evolve. I think if you stick to it's just three people fighting an empire all day, it's gonna get boring really quick.
Oh, yeah.
I think if Harry Potter had stuck around just like it's just kids in Wizarding School, I think it would have gotten boring really quick.
Yeah.
I mean, like we can argue how Harry Potter evolved over time, but like, um, I think what I like about, and I don't want to make this too much about three, but I think three, it's like I think it's refining itself.
It's bringing the elements together, which I think for these three games was their biggest pitfall. There was nothing really tying them together.
I think what the problem is, Cole, there's a lack of a good character story that doesn't balance the lore story.
Exactly. And that's the big
it's
thing we talked about with Birth by Sleep. What's funny is that this game kind of does character parts a bit better. With Birth by Sleep, that's where it really drops the ball.
In fact, I remember watching a review of Crimes of Grindelwald, and they said it replaces theme with lore.
Ooh.
And I because it's sort of like it starts becoming too much of let's just info dump all. I have not seen Crimes of Grindelwald, so I don't know if this is true. I'm going to suspect it is. It just has
But you know what?
Look.
You know what's funny, Joel? You and I have talked about two quite a bit, and then they were branching into the nothingness territory, and I've always loved that idea. But then they basically did that after this. They replaced the themes going forward with a very ill-defined lore centering around it, but never really centralized it. Like I'm not sure what exactly it is you're trying to get out of these stories that eventually have to combine together because of what you're setting up.
Exactly, and it's gonna be interesting when you watch Harry Potter because they're like you're gonna see it, Cole. You will see like the first one, which is all cute and light, and then by the second one, it's all gray and dark, and we're fighting evil.
Funny thing, I'll probably be seeing Harry Potter very, very soon. Probably a little after Christmas.
Okay, good. We'll talk about that afterward because I'm curious how we want to organize that because I want to do a discussion at least.
Well, we won't organize anything yet. I can't promise anything. So
okay, but it's sort of like it's sort of like. Again, with Harry Potter, we have now it's all about the Keyblade War and the unions and the foretellers and the thingies and the Master of Masters, if that ever comes back into Kingdom Hearts 3, Lord knows, and whatever Maleficent's doing and time travel, and it's like, where's just like I don't mind any of that stuff. To be quite honest with you, Cole, I don't mind any of that stuff on a conceptual basis.
No, neither do I.
But there's no strong story for it.
And there's no reason they all exist when they do, especially when for as long as we've been surrounded by a central character. And then we went away from that central character for a while and did all this stuff that formed unique identities within itself. Then we tried to culminate it in distance, but you try to do kind of you went halfway with it and didn't go all out with it.
I think so. He's going to go all out with it, but it looks.
I think it has to. It has to.
Because I feel like, and this is what I like, what I do like about Days, but it's just the structure is wrong. You could have just focused on Roxas. You parallel him with Sora and Ven, but you have a strong character story. You introduce those lore elements, and that way you can kind of keep a good story, but also keep pushing that lore forward.
Also, if I were an Immortal, I would have released Birth by Sleep first.
Yeah, I would have done that too. I would have released Because Days does hint at Birth by Sleep. This is the
Yeah, but I feel like the hints that it gives, I'm like, it really doesn't service Birth by Sleep in any way.
See, that's why I always say, Cole, this is around the time where I feel like Kingdom Hearts does form its identity, because this is what Kingdom Hearts been stuck with now, with, like, all that Keyblade stuff. And
I agree it formed its identity, but I just don't really think it knew what to do with the identity.
do you think that, that essentially what we're seeing in this era of Kingdom Hearts is Kingdom Hearts 3 got its A team back, the Geese Kingdom Hearts games got the B team.
Exactly. And also bear in mind that Osaka team is on it, but they've had 3 games to kind of see, okay, they don't like that, they like this, they really hated that.
And I guess let's talk about this, Cole, because there was an interview where they got Disney people now on the team.
Exactly. I think the funny thing they realized when 3 was announced, they realized the outcry of that and how much people had been waiting and praying and begging for 3 to come out. So they're like, there's coin to be made here. There's a lot of stuff to be done here.
We're not even talking about 3's quality of the story, necessarily.
No. They're just realizing, let's jump on that and let's see where it goes.
Right. Because, I think you've already convoluted enough. It's like, it's not going to unconvolute itself at this point.
If any of you think you're going to go into Kingdom Hearts right now for a simple story, you are never, ever, ever going to get that.
However, I watched a Let's Play guy named Liam. I think it was named Liam, somebody else. I think it was named Liam. And he said something quite interesting. And he was doing it when he was criticizing Union Cross. Mm-hmm. He said essentially his problem with Union Cross, it's not that it's convoluted, it's that Kingdom Hearts has been a master, or essentially really good at telling a convoluted story, at least to the point where you are invested enough.
Yes.
And with Union Cross, he felt that a lot of that convolutedness, well, it's always there. He wasn't invested in it, and didn't feel like it was I can't say the best way to tell it, because, the best way to tell it would be just simple and clean. But it didn't have that same kind of charm and just the uniqueness of telling that story.
Which is weird, because back cover fixes it. I think the big problem with Union Cross is that it was a mobile game to begin with.
No, I think he was talking about back cover. That was what he was talking about. He didn't like back cover.
See, I like back cover to a point. Union Cross is what I'm like, The problem with Union Cross, Joel, and I think the thing that kills Union Cross for me is pacing.
Is Union Cross the cutscenes with the foretellers, or I'm thinking of somebody else? I'm always thinking of those two.
No, that is the foretellers. Union Cross is the story with the foretellers, and Union Cross is basically everything else with the foretellers and all the other story that we don't get.
Okay, but essentially
Union Cross and all that is what makes that cover make a bit more sense.
Right, but essentially, I think this was the era when the convoluted story didn't have any charm.
Yeah, which is funny because I like back cover aesthetically, and I like it on the conceptual level, and I like some of the characters kind of, but I'm like, okay, this feels very separate. I like it, I really like it, but it feels really separate because I have no means of being able to connect it to anything right now.
You know what it is, Cole? You know what it is? Days is part of the original trilogy era. Back cover is them doing an Old Republic.
Yeah, and while it's good, the problem with this is that it really doesn't connect. And they're really trying for it to.
It's weird because, like, Days is like kind of like I don't want to compare it to Rogue One, because Rogue One is actually really good. Or even Solo, because I really like Solo.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Solo. Like, let's use Star Wars metaphor here for a second. I consider kind of Kingdom Hearts 1 through 2 the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, I consider everything after that the sequel trilogy. I consider Union Cross Old Republic.
Yeah.
I guess that means Master Xehanort really is Snoke. Xemnas, also back to Xemnas, because I feel like we got off track. But let's try it back to Xemnas. Xemnas, in a lot of ways, for me, for a long time, almost felt like the Emperor of the Kingdom Hearts universe.
Yeah.
And it's weird because now you have Master Xehanort in the mix. And it's kind of doing that weird thing of, like, you have the Emperor, now you have the Super Emperor.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've talked about them just enough and all that. We got on a big tangent. Let's finish this up, I guess, with Roxas.
Yeah, because that's the big thing and the big tie into three apparently.
Well,
I love Roxas here.
Roxas has
I've never disliked Roxas. I've always loved Roxas.
Roxas has been the most consistent character.
Exactly.
Sora gets hit with the stupid stick too many times, especially in Dream Drop Distance.
Ooh, if you want to see us rage at that, go watch that part of the journey.
Two, what was I gonna say? Two, I like him in two. I don't know why people don't like him in two.
You mean Sora?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do too.
I mean, he's a little naive.
I think the problem is that the plot doesn't give him enough to assert himself a bit more.
I can see that. I think he can be great in three. At least
I do too.
And obviously, I like him in Chain of Memories. I like what they're trying to do with him.
I also like what they're doing, kind of what they were doing in Chain of Memories, what they're doing in 3. When Lark's taunting him about Elsa, and he angrily shouts at Lark, he's like, "Good for you. I'm not going to let her fall to darkness." I like seeing that side of Sora come out.
That's more of a righteous side. I like seeing angry, bitter.
I do too, but I think we're going to get some of that in 3, especially because I think what 3 is going to do, they're going to play the fear card. But anyway.
Roxas is great because I always make this joke. He's bad boy Ventus.
Yeah.
He's
Ventus written better.
I don't think he's Ventus written better. Well, yes and no.
Well, yeah, he is. But
yes and no. I can't say he's Ventus. Well, I don't say that because I don't think Ventus written better would have that personality. I think personally, I think
he would be a bit closer to Roxas if he was better written. He wouldn't be completely Roxas, but he have more similarities. As he is now, Ventus is kind of, as you say, Disney princess.
Oh yeah. I'm not quite sure what they were wanting to do, what they were going for. Anyway,
yeah, that's the topic anyway.
But yeah, I like Roxas. I like seeing with the organization. I think my problem with Roxas in this game is I feel like the story does not support him.
No.
He's a great character. Everything he does is great. He just does not have a story that's worthy.
The sad part is the only story part with him I like is the end.
Like, again, I feel like I wish he was either discovering Ventus, he was discovering Sora. I wish he would just, that sort of thing.
And seeing him rage out after losing Xion and going after Riku and slowly forgetting her, I love that. And that's when the story part of it really comes forth to me. But before that, there's...
Ooh, indeed. But, it's one of those things where, character-wise, he's great. Story-wise, they don't give him anything worthy.
Well, yeah. You're basically, for the entire game, you're stuck doing missions with them that don't mean much.
I wish he had more relationship with Riku, too.
Me too.
And of course.
By the way, thank you for bringing it up, because I got to talk about that. In 2, Riku says the first time he fought Roxas, he lost. But the next time he met, he was the stronger one. In Days, we never see that. And if he's talking about the first time he lost is the time Riku was running away, I'm like, really? So if that isn't what... it's
like the Pete thing.
It's inconsistent. It's very inconsistent.
It's one of those weird little retcon things. Yeah, that's not good. Not good.
It clearly shows Nomura had a different idea before that.
Also, that's another thing. I kind of wish we knew what was going on with Riku, because, I guess we're going back to Riku for here, but I guess I forgot about this after you mentioned it. We see him, he's going the road to Dawn, and now he got a blindfold on, and he can turn to Ansem.
The sad part, too, is that I feel like the line we're given into that his eyes couldn't line, he didn't want to see what the darkness would make him become. I get that. The problem is in Days, we're not given any idea of that whatsoever. And when he does transform, we're like, well, what the hell does this mean?
I feel like, and also when he does that, I feel like that was the first time he ever did it.
Yeah.
It's just a funny fanfic, though, of him doing it just out of random when he gets mad at Sora, and, Sora just freaks out for, 5 seconds before it comes back to normal.
And I get Chain of Memories kind of gives that kind of some background, but I'm like, this is where that story of him and Mickey traveling together, I feel like was needed for that. I would have combined that and Days together, honestly.
I was gonna do that too in my story, but then I realized I want to do the Riku gets his own team thing and have him in Gravity Falls fight Jafar and sort of set that up. Then do the time scoop was time skip. Yeah. Back on track. I would have loved that story. Not even necessarily him with Mickey, just him going to worlds and dealing with stuff. Maybe
I would have seen him and Roxas interact a bit more. Maybe have him and Roxas kind of trade blows time to time.
have them be rivals.
Yeah.
I also wish, though, this is another thing, Cole, and I'm curious to get your opinion on it. If you did release Burst by Sleep first, and then Days, how would you have fit in Vanitas into all of this? Because I feel like you need to do that. Because I really like that rivalry, and I feel like that's a rivalry.
I do too. The thing is, while I love Vanitas, I wouldn't put him in there. Just if I'm not even going on your fan fiction, I'm talking just in terms of what I would do. I would maybe hint at a darkness inside Roxas. That would maybe be what I would do. I wouldn't full on go on Vanitas because I feel like I would rather Roxas kind of have to deal with that himself before it's personified. I would rather that be a mystery to him before it's personified because I feel like the moment it's personified, the moment that weight is kind of taken away. And I feel like that's the time it works the most with Roxas because you can see he's clearly angry and gets angry.
Oh yeah, I love it when Sora and Roxas get angry because like maybe that's Vanitas showing up.
And I like that ambiguity until it has to be brought up, and then they realize that personified is what they're dealing with. I like that more conceptually than just fully on doing Vanitas right away.
You know, I once read a fanfic. Funny enough, it's like where Sora was confronting Vanitas and confronting Vanitas not in a fight way, but they were just sitting and talking. It was one of those weird things where like Sora and Vanitas were like switching in and out of their bodies and stuff like that. But they could talk to each other.
So they call him okay.
Not call him. It's more like it's sort of like what people think happened after 2, like Sora and Roxas and Kyrie and Naminé can all be together, kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
And it's sort of like they can talk to each other. Like Vanitas is like, every time you got mad, every time you got proud, every time you got a little jealous, that was me poking my little head in.
Anyway.
Yeah. I would have liked to see Roxas and the Riku rivalry is just the Sora Riku rivalry.
Yeah, I feel like that's the better parallel, to be completely honest.
Because I think Axel and Roxas being rivals doesn't work.
No, I would much rather them be friends that are entangled in a time of them just not being able to be with each other and be friends with each other at that time, just based on the circumstances.
Would you have wanted to go back to Xemnas, but also tie into Roxas, Xemnas to have favor of Roxas, like he is the new chosen protege kind of a thing?
It would have at least made Xemnas a bit more relevant.
Not in the prophecy sense, but sort of like...
he favors him like he expects great things.
It's like the Anakin-Palpatine relationship, I
would have loved that because they would have at the very least given Xemnas more to do.
Would you have almost wanted Roxas and Ventus, not Roxas and Xemnas, to have like a Palpatine-Anakin relationship? Sort of like they can talk to each other, like Xemnas doing the Palpatine manipulating.
Yeah, I would have, except I would have had a little more unease with Roxas because he realizes there's something kind of off about him.
Right, so he wouldn't have gone like full on trusting, like he's just the kindly old.
No, I would have it be like he's kind of like something's a little weird. I'm helping you because you're helping me, but something about you, I don't know.
Yeah,
but there's a draw, there's a pull. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you want to save that more direct Anakin Palpatine line with Terra and Master Xandor, maybe.
Exactly. Anyways, yeah, exactly. Anyway,
and I would have liked to see Roxas dealing with the other organization members because
me too.
Roxas is not a psychopath. He's generally a good person. Like he doesn't want to kill anyone. It's heartless. Yeah. But
I'm surprised all the other organization people are basically terrible people. I don't know what the hell made Lexius kind of the way he is.
I guess we're not just rewriting Organization 13 at this point. Would you have wanted more like, you have some bad people, but you also have some good people in Organization?
I would have made Demix and maybe Zigbar kind of be some of them.
Now, Zigbar, I think, works better as a baddie.
Yeah, but kind of plays in between kind of thing. Luxor, Demix, Zaldin.
I feel like we just got an organization of crooks and cons, and just like there's only
Yeah, especially when later some of them aren't.
Ienzo doesn't feel that way now.
Ienzo, Lexi, or Elias, Dylan,
Like,
Evan's another story, but
well, Vexen definitely is a little hothead. You know, I always forget some of the other ones because there are so many. Like the two buff ones, the two buff guys.
Elias and Lexius and Zaldin, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think you should have made them more maybe like quiet,
But
stoic.
they're kind of cool. They're kind of good people.
Maybe not any good people, just like they're not evil people. They're like
Yeah, they're sympathetic. You can sympathize with them, but you can still be around them with more having one more.
they'll give you a pat on the shoulder when they pass by. They
Exactly.
know
Like
you're
they aren't
dead.
gonna like rip you apart and berate you. Because Vexen is just kind of condescending. That's what he is.
Well, Vexen, I can totally see him being evil. He's like
Well,
this.
yeah, but I mean, in terms of that, let's vary it up. I mean, the nicest one out of all of them is Marluxia, and we know why he's that way.
Marluxia, like I'm curious if they're gonna go the. Well, I don't want to get too much into the tragic route with Marluxia because I've seen some.
Anyway, that's a story for another time. I think that what this all boils down to, Joel, is that a lot of what we think this game is trying to, or what it is now, we don't know because we don't have that context right now. And a lot of what we do have just isn't a lot to talk about
I
because those original ideas just don't give it enough meat to really discuss.
It's setting up things that it gives you like a inch of string to look at, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it has a strong characters. It's sort of
Yep.
like opposite of Birth by Sleep, where it's like Birth by Sleep gives you a lot to work with, like just to speculate, like Master Xehanort, Vanitas, Ventus, the Keyblade War, the Ancient Times. It's a bit like they a little bit like Dream Drop Distance in some ways,
Hmm.
except at least I'll respect Dream Drop Distance, where it's like it does at least culminate into something. Like okay, now you know what's gonna happen. We have 13 Darknesses, 7 Lights. They're gonna fight in 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's days. I can't think of much to say after that.
I can't either.
You were right, Cole. This was gonna be a short discussion.
Actually, no, we've been going for over 50 minutes.
Well, we got a little off topic, but I feel like there's always some good stuff to say. Gonna be hard when we get to coded because there's not much there either.
No, and a lot of that we really don't have context for, even with three.
And it's sad because this is not a side game because it's gonna play into 3.
Yeah, days is heavily going to play into three.
Um, I will always give. It's both relevant and irrelevant at the same time.
I think that's the best way to sum it up. It's the most relevant, irrelevant game of the series.
Essentially, yes. I will say it will at least give you some more context into Roxas if you like Roxas.
Yeah, so if you love Roxas, you should play this game because you get more of what you liked.
You'll be sadder when Axel and Roxas have to say goodbye.
Yeah, especially in Final Mix, bear that in mind.
Definitely. So, yeah, that's it, folks. That is our Journey to Kingdom Hearts 3 Part 46. Hopefully I'll get this up soon, and, we'll continue the critical run when we do. We'll hopefully get to the others in time before 3.
Yeah, well, Coded will be happening in December. We'll definitely do Coded in December.
And we'll try to do Backdrop while we're still on vacation.
We'll definitely be able to do that. Back cover will be easy. The final passage. If Joel can't make it, I will do that alone because there isn't a lot for that. But
Nah, it's like prequel stuff, like the prologue. And then Kingdom Hearts 3 will come out eventually.
Speaking of which, people, around the 25th or so, 24th, 25th, Joel and I are probably going to be off the interwebs for a bit until 3 is released. We'll want to have played it first before we jump on and potentially see people talking about it. So we're going to jump off and just wait for 3 to drop before getting back in. So just bear that in mind.
Right. So, well, I never update this YouTube channel regularly anyway, so, they'll be think I'm gone anyway, so, yeah, be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
But, until next time, folks, hope you enjoyed this conversation, and may your heart be your guiding key. Bye.